keeping an eye on. Yeah. Nope. Excuse me, everyone. By any chance, does anyone have matches or a lighter? I know that's an odd request to start. It's like, let's make a deal. What do you have in your knapsacks? I think this is the sign of the times. There's very few smokers. Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes while we're trying to get matches or a lighter for the blessing, and then we're going to proceed with the ceremony. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. I would like to welcome Alan Ockwin to the stage to lead us in the blessing as we start this afternoon.
Bonjour, good afternoon. Je suis Alan Ockwin. My name is Alan Ockwin. I'm from the Sebegnigan Band. And we came by this through several avenues. Here I am showing up without nobody knowing. But that's just the way the Great Spirit works. are always full of surprises, and more often not good ones, I hope. I'm honored to be here. Honored to have the opportunity to start this beautiful week. What a relief to hear that doors are opening for people. Opportunities are opening for people all over. And that's a part of the prayer. Great Spirit, thank you for this beautiful day and offering us safety in numbers coming here. Great Spirit, again, thank you for the risk and give the gifts and release. Great Spirit, surprise give us more. Would you, Mother, thank you for all you offer, your riches. When we are conflicted, confused, feeling hopeless, always remember the Great Spirit is right there next to you. Merely looking up brings forth that spirit and that healing. And it's always there. It's not just for Ilnu, it's for everybody. As after all, this is Access Week, eh? Thank you so much, Vladio. Micmac, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to attend both in person and to those who are tuning in live stream. I would like to begin Nova Scotia's inaugural provincial flag raising. Yes, for the first time in 38 years, we are raising the Access Awareness flag here at Province House. And we are gathered here on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Wabanaki Confederacy, also known as Mi'kma'ki. This is the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq, the Maliseet, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations, the people of the Dawn, the stewards of this land for an eternity. It's everyone's responsibility to continue to learn about our shared history, and NS Leo is committed to our stewardship in the Peace and Friendship Treaty, recognizing that we are all treaty people. It's also important to recognize the African Nova Scotians community legacy continues to contribute to this province after more than 400 years. And last, but certainly not least, I would be remiss if I did not include that the disability rights movement began 60 years ago alongside the women's rights movement. And more than 60 years later, persons with disabilities, both visible and invisible, continue to advocate for an accessible and inclusive quality of life on an equitable basis as those without a disability. After 38 years, the intention of Access Awareness Week remains the same: to raise awareness of the work that's been done, to celebrate the milestones we've reached, and to acknowledge the work that still needs to be completed. Change comes from the top down and from the bottom up, and we are looking for the two to meet somewhere in the middle. My name is Sherry Costa-Lorenz, and I will be walking you through this afternoon's event. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a short white, I've said this morning, I'll continue to say it. I'm a short white teenager with blue eyes, brown hair, sprinkled with wisdom highlights, sometimes more highlights than wisdom. And I do have this in a Viking pick to hold my bun in place, just in case. I'm wearing a purple coat with dark blue pants and white boots with flowers. I'm also the executive director for the Nova Scotia League for Equal Opportunities, an equity and inclusive organization. We champion First Voice by using a disability lens and a rights-based approach for, again, an equitable access, quality of life for persons with disabilities. NS Leo is the organization that has been leading and coordinating many of the community events that are happening this week. This collaborative work, and I cannot stress this enough, cannot be done without partnerships with many disability and government organizations. And I'm going to name these in no particular order. We have the Nova Scotia Accessibility Directorate, the Nova Scotia Disability Employees Network, Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, Nova Scotia Office of Equity and Anti-Racism, the Municipal Accessibility Support Program, Halifax Regional Municipality, Inclusion Nova Scotia, the Disability Partnership, CNIB Foundation, March of Dimes, People First, People Works, Reachability, the Tetra Society of Nova Scotia, Planning for Equity, Accessibility, and Community Health Research Unit at Dalhousie University, and also Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia. As most of you know, Access Awareness Week has been a celebration for Nova Scotia, in Nova Scotia for 38 years to highlight all of the work done by and for people with disabilities, and to draw attention to the importance of intentionally creating more inclusive and accessible communities. This year's theme is Communities for All, taking action on access awareness. And it's amazing to see how our province is starting to change with so many more partners and allies at the table. I feel honored to be able to be a part of this week to kick off what is the first ever flag raising at Province House. Earlier this morning, we held an awards ceremony to celebrate community leaders, including 3 incredible youths who were recognized for their actions to increasing accessibility and improving the lives for persons with disabilities. Later this week, on Wednesday, there is a virtual event to explore the experiences of people with disabilities who didn't choose to be activists, but worked to improve the quality of life in their communities. On Friday, during the Scholarship for Students with a Disability, we'll be celebrating students who are receiving scholarships to help support their post-secondary studies. I would also like to add that since NS-LEO began the scholarships, and through the support of incredible sponsors, more than $250,000 has been available to students with a disability, with 100% of these dollars going directly to the students. There are such a variety of events. Doing a traffic pause here. There are such a variety of events happening across the province this year, from municipal flag raisings to an accessible, all-ages student disco or silent disco. I encourage I'm just pausing for the 18-wheelers. I encourage you to find out more information on NS-LEO's website at www.nsleo.com. At this time, I would like to invite a representative from the Government of Nova Scotia to join us for their remarks, the reading of the Provincial Proclamation and raising of the flag. I would like to introduce Associate Deputy Minister, Department of Justice, Michelle Higgins. Prior to being appointed to Associate Deputy Minister in 2023, Michelle was the Executive Director of the Legal Services Division in the Department of Justice since 2017. Michelle is a graduate of the University of Prince Edward Island and the University of Western Ontario Law School. After practicing in a large regional firm, Michelle joined the Department of Justice in 2006 as a solicitor. In 2015, Michelle served as the acting CEO of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, and in 2022, she was appointed to the King's Council. Please join me in welcoming Associate Deputy Minister Higgins.
Good afternoon. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a middle-aged woman with red hair, and I will be putting on glasses in just a moment, as well as a blue jacket. I'm pleased to join you this afternoon to launch Access Awareness Week. The Honorable Barbara Adams, Minister responsible for the Accessibility Act, is unable to join today. However, Minister Adams asked that I did pass along her congratulations for celebrating the 38th Awareness Week, the longest in Canada. She also wanted me to reconfirm government's commitment to Access by Design 2030. All government departments are acting on commitments made through the Government of Nova Scotia Accessibility Plan. A key highlight of this past year was government's response to the first independent review of the Accessibility Act, led by Dr. Katie Albrecht, a scholar and associate professor at St. FX University. The province is taking action to address Dr. Albrecht's recommendations, including accelerating standard development, increasing involvement of people from diverse backgrounds with disabilities, improving communications and broadening community engagement, increasing supports for prescribed public sector bodies, monitoring accessibility improvements in healthcare, justice, and housing, and strengthening and monitoring accountability and progress reporting. An important part of the work of the Accessibility Directorate is the development of accessibility standards. We have all 6 accessibility standard areas under development and remain on track to have all standards enacted by 2030. In addition to the standards, work is underway on the development of a quality of life index for Nova Scotians with disabilities. Government provided grant funding to the Nova Scotia League for Equal Opportunities to develop this index, which will be the first of its kind in North America. This will help us measure the impact of our collective work to make Nova Scotia more accessible for the daily lives of Nova Scotians with disabilities. We recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Accessibility Standards Canada that will improve efforts, coordination, and the sharing of resources and research. Through grant funding provided to Easter Seals Nova Scotia, we're working with the disability organizations to strengthen their coordination, their capacity building, and communication through the new Disability Partnership Forum. Opportunities for involvement of First Voice participants is continuing to increase, with an emphasis on intersectionality. Recently, we launched a First Voice Accessible Experts Recruitment Initiative to engage a diversity of people with disabilities in government's accessibility work. Nova Scotians with disabilities will be part of panels of experts for specific projects and receive honoraria for contributing their lived experience and expertise in accessibility. These are just a few examples of our progress. Would we like to move faster? Definitely. But it takes time to ensure we get things right. That is why we are collaborating with key partners, including municipalities, post-secondary institutions, regional libraries, and others to help us advance our goal of an accessible Nova Scotia. The commitment to accessibility is as strong today as it was in 2017 when the Accessibility Act was passed. I would like to thank the Coalition of Community Organizations and government partners, including Executive Director Sherry Costa, and the leadership of the Nova Scotia League for Equal Opportunities, as well as the Planning Committee for coordinating this year's Access Awareness events and awards. This week helps us build awareness about how together we all have a responsibility to make Nova Scotia more accessible. We will continue to move forward, working together to achieve our Access by Design 2030 goals. To conclude, the Premier of Nova Scotia asked that I read the following proclamation. Whereas Access Awareness Week Nova Scotia is an annual celebration held in the last week of May to raise awareness about disability, access, and inclusion. And whereas Nova Scotia was the first province in Canada to champion Access Awareness Week 38 years ago, and in 2017 became the 3rd province to pass accessibility legislation to prevent and remove barriers for people with disabilities. And whereas the theme for this year is Communities for All, taking action on access awareness, and this highlights the importance of creating an inclusive culture and province for all Nova Scotians. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia, do hereby proclaim the week of May 26th to June 1st, 2024 to be Access Awareness Week, Nova Scotia, and do commend its thoughtful observation to all citizens of our province. Thank you.
We're going to have a short pause while we raise the flag. Thank you again, Associate Deputy Higgins. Now I would like to introduce Vanessa Furlong for the last part of the event. Vanessa is a professional circus and performance artist specializing in acrobatics, stilts, trapeze, and clown. She is currently based in Kippachuck, Halifax. A graduate of theater, music, and psychology, Vanessa has toured with multiple performance groups nationally and internationally for the past top decades as a musician, actor, circus artist, and educator. She uses multiple creative techniques in her lifelong journey to explore access in art and the gifts of aging, motherhood, and disability in her creative expression. Vanessa?
Thank you. Vanessa speaking. I am a white woman with long dark hair and wearing a black suit-ish type outfit that makes me appear a lot more serious than I am. It is a great privilege to share space with you and to share the work of 4 artists from the disability art sector here in Mi'kma'ki. This video is an invitation to reflect on external and perceived barriers and to invite imagination and the seemingly impossible into your conversations and plans for the future. I believe in the right to dignity of risk, and circus is a beautiful medium for artistic exploration and expression of risk. So please enjoy the mixture of cinematography by Matt Downey, the stills photography by Amanda Carvery-Taylor, the narration and circus performances by April Hubbard and myself as we explore what it means to be where the wild things aren't. Now I recognize the screen is quite small and way over here. And so I do invite folks, if you want to get closer to the screen, to do so now.
Black screen, April's voice.
This piece is based off my own personal experiences and a quote from the disability anthology Disfigured by Amanda Leduc, which reads, "A princess in a wheelchair would have trouble finding those blackberries, I thought as I crept through the bushes, and then stopped, briefly, and smiled. A princess in a wheelchair, who ever heard of such a thing?"
White text that reads, "Where the wild things aren't." April, a white woman, shoulder-length brown hair pulled back, glasses, is seated in her manual wheelchair in a gravel parking lot. Multiple bins and bags are on her lap.
Once upon a time, there was a princess who grew up in a magical kingdom.
Treetops.
Each day she would wander in the forest, over the field, left at the birch tree, and down to the seashore.
A beach. White sand, waves, rocks, people.
She would climb down the rocks to feel the ocean on her feet.
April seated in her wheelchair at a trailhead with Vanessa, a white woman with long black hair, seated sideways on her lap. They are surrounded by gear. Vanessa clowns for the camera. They laugh.
She befriended the animals and feasted on berries that tasted so sweet.
The beach. April and Vanessa on the boardwalk. They hold a large black cloth. White sand, marshlands.
One day a spell fell over her body. Pain moved from her roots into her trunk.
Black screen. Vanessa, on stilts, pulls April behind her with straps attached to April and her wheelchair. Their background is a bright blue sky.
She found freedom by moving in her chariot, but could no longer visit her friends in the forest. She dreamed of the days where she could wander free.
A forest. Vanessa on stilts. April uses forearm crutches. They walk. The beach. April pushes her wheelchair in sand. Vanessa walks on stilts. The forest. April assists Vanessa to step over a fallen tree with stilts and crutches.
The princess was banished to a stone tower in an asphalt kingdom. Landscape shrunk into parks and planters. Her memories would visit, but they brought sadness rather than joy. She mourned a lost sense of connection to a system larger than herself.
The beach. April's wheelchair is strapped to a paddleboard in the sand. Waves move in.
The villagers asked the princess how they might help. She told of her kingdom where plants grew and waves lapped the shore.
The forest. April's wheelchair on a log walkway.
The princess grew confused when the villagers explained that nature was all around. To them, the forest was only steps away, and they could be anointed by water whenever they chose.
The beach. April seated in her wheelchair on the paddleboard. Vanessa pushes the board into the water. April and the chair fall into the water. A black and white close-up. Vanessa and April laugh.
A call went out through all the kingdom to find any villager wishing to lend support. There would be a quest like none had seen before. The princess would again wander the shoreline and frolic in the forest. Many laughed, some scoffed, but the valiant few held strong.
The forest. Vanessa on stilts. April stands in a hollow tree. They laugh. A black and white still. Vanessa is posed with stilted leg raised on tree. April with crutches looks up.
On the morning of the quest they gathered, the princess was asked to relay her dreams, share her fears, and open her heart. Then all departed on their trek.
The beach. Tall rocks. Vanessa and April climb. They pass April's wheelchair to each other overhead.
Sometimes she was lifted, other times she led the way, but always the princess was surrounded by friends.
Close up as April pulls seaweed from the spokes of the wheelchair. The forest. April balances on fallen tree with crutches.
Each time she grew tired or scared or lost track of the path, the princess would feel a hand reach toward her. Stones disappeared, roots vanished, sinking ground grew solid. The villagers' support helped the princess discover her strength.
Vanessa, seated in a tree, looks out to a lake. Wheelchair in foreground.
Soon she was back in a kingdom of greenery, feeling the moss beneath her feet.
Vanessa does handstand with wheelchair. April sits in loops that hang from the tree. They play. The beach. Vanessa and April carry the wheelchair over rocks.
On this magical day, she had savored the scent of the evergreens and bathed in the healing ocean.
Vanessa lifts April in an acrobatic hold. April's leg extends. The chair sits on rocks behind them.
With each deep breath, she felt a familiar connection to home. The princess knew the experience was fleeting. Tomorrow she would return to the land of concrete. But the princess wondered why others couldn't access this joy.
The forest. Vanessa lifts April overhead and lowers her onto her shoulder. Extend.
Was a kingdom of supporters needed? Are you required to push your limits and contort your body in dangerous ways? Who created the rules governing the right to connect with nature?
The beach. April in chair with crutches, Vanessa on stilts. They dance. Camera pans out and circles them.
Because it was not distance or ability that kept the princess away. It was the imagination of those around her and their willingness to support, which allowed her to once again taste the sweetness of nature, and believe that a princess in a wheelchair can do anything, even discover a magical kingdom she believed to be lost forever.
The forest. April's wheelchair by a tree at a lake's edge. Black screen. White text on black screen. Credits. Vanessa Furlong, stilts.
Vanessa speaking. I'd like to close with a poem. I'm told that I'm passing and that that is a privilege. But what if we didn't grade, evaluate, assimilate, learn to navigate, to be great, or even grateful? What if we were just great because we are full of curiosity, imagination, and risks? What if I became we and try became be, and what if community meant everyone and not just for those who agree? I am told that I'm passing and that that is a privilege. This tells me two things: that hiding is valued and that my hiding gives me access. So my proposal is this: can we open the gates, or better yet, can we just tear them down? Can we imagine community where access abounds, where passing is past tense and there is no loss, just found, and it's less and less about being allowed, less about afterthoughts and excess, and more about in your thoughts and access. Thank you.
They say you should never follow a better act, but unfortunately, this is my role today. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing that incredible piece of work that you guys worked on. And thank you all, for everyone for attending at the legislature today and for tuning in online. Embrace the rest of the week, and I hope you have the opportunity to check out some of the events. I'd also encourage you to perhaps give some thought to an event for yourself for next year. Thank you.